Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. I cannot believe it's Friday already, but it is. And we've had a lot of interesting, and I learned from the conversation that we had about curious. Interesting, having interest in something is something that you, um, if you follow, if you go after, um, there is a prize. There is more information after that. So this week I'll be looking at a lot of the conversations again because there's a lot of fun stuff from looking at curious, looking at safety and reflection. And even yesterday we had purpose. And so today I'm excited to look at a word and have a conversation around the words success. And this is one of those love-hate relationship with this word too, because it shows up in a lot of different ways for me. And most of the times it's after the fact. Now, I'm going to be fighting with a cold or a sneeze today, so this is going to be fun. This is going to be the first time that I'm going to have to manage my my health or something. So this is allergies, and so we'll go from there. But as I do, this is an opportunity where I will bring up my friend, and we will have a conversation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bill. This is so exciting. Thank you for having me.
Well, it is definitely an honor. So this is a time when I ask my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Well, my name is Angel Guerrero. I'm out here in Greensboro, North Carolina, where you used to be.
Absolutely.
And I am currently the branch leader for AmeriLife and Health Services here in Greensboro. So I'm an insurance planner, and I help folks to retire with dignity and not ever worry about outliving their money. So that has been my career the last 2.5 years. Before that, I just did a variety of different community advocacy works, business owner for 25 years, successful. And in this branch of my life, just really getting ready for myself to plan out my retirement years. Married for 17 years, three amazing children, my daughter's ages 16 and 14. Pray for me.
Right.
And then, of
Absolutely.
course, and my son, who is 10 years old, 100% boy, keeps me on my toes. An amazing wife that also works with me. She happens to be also my admin and helps me stay in line and my head on my body here. And I'm just excited. I mean, and especially with today, we're going to talk about, definitely has been a journey for me to get to that word where I can use it a little more often.
Well, absolutely. So, how does success land for you? How does that word land for you?
Well, you said something interesting in the beginning about this word, the love and hate. And I
Right.
guess, when you're in your 20s, you feel indestructible.
Right.
And you got this thing about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You have this laundry list of amazing, amazing success points in your life. And
Right.
as you get older and life hits you smack in the face, success does not feel a word that you want to do. So I think that love and hate that you're talking about
Right.
is that some folks end up fearing success.
Right.
And now they don't even want to use it because they're afraid of being held accountable to it.
Right.
So it really is a unique word in that sense of like, where are you in your life? But success is a journey. I think that's the most common phrase that you have.
Right.
Success is relative
Right.
to the person. And you had a word earlier, purpose. It depends on their purpose, of course, in life and what they gauge and relative. But
Right.
the nice part about success is that it's measurable and it's
Right.
also extremely forgiving. Uh,
Right.
so that's why I think it just depends on your age and where you are in your phase of life. But thankfully, because it's very forgiving, it doesn't matter what stage in life you're in, you can have success in any stage. It's just a matter of you embracing it
Right.
or really just playing around with it. So it's just kind of that idea.
No, I totally get that, and I appreciate that. The most of the times the biggest challenge that I've had with success is that it wasn't an intentional thing for me. It was just something that I would say to myself that, I want I'm going to be doing this and I want success. And then I would get what I get, and then I would label it and say that this was a success or not a success. And so the more that I believe that I'm intentional and say, this is what I want from this endeavor. This is what I want from this activity. And as you said, it's then it becomes measurable.
Mhm.
And when you don't have the intention, or when I don't have intention around my success, there is this comparative. I look over and see what somebody else is doing or not doing, and says, "Oh, they're being successful, and I'm not." Type of thing. And so it just really has to be, for me, very intentional, very upfront, and move on from there. Do you think that is a key, or is that a component of
Oh,
really being on the journey?
I would definitely say a component. There's one area that probably I talk to a lot of our newer agents now in my role here. So I'm always getting them started. And again, various age groups, people that are fresh out of college to folks that are already in their second and third career in their life. And I think one of the biggest things that is added on to that is the word commitment.
Right.
Without that commitment of actual passion, and you've had some words before that you've talked on this show, you got passion, you got word curiosity that was recently used, purpose, all of these kind of intertwine. So success becomes kind of to some people's mind, it becomes the finish line.
Right.
Or a stage. So for those folks that are more like eat the elephant one bite at a time,
Right.
their success is measured in those little stages rather than just one lump sum.
Right.
So it really, you have to be committed. And also the other word that I like to say is still accountable, because the power of one versus the power of many is one that success often gets thrown to the side. I've
Right.
never been successful by myself.
Right.
I have been always much, much more successful with a team environment, with a group of people or another partner.
Right.
That's where success, I think, has been very, very powerful for me and for mentors that I've had in my life. They've always shared the same thing. They've been just always somebody that they turned to or worked with to get to that success point. It was never by themselves.
Is there so I don't want to say, I don't want to counter anything that you said, but because
do.
a lot of no, a lot of where I am right now is just on this self journey and self-awareness journey and self-discovery, and I have to have personal success. I have to a success for me is honor this commitment to show up in this show daily, right?
Yeah.
A success for me is to have be committed to my meditation practice, and that has nothing to do with anybody else. I say a lot of this journey for myself is that I am alone with others. And so the more that I embrace that there's a large part of this journey that I'm on, that I'm by myself, and I have to define what success is for me outside of what other people say about success or can contribute to that. I think it's when I'm with multipliers, because a large part of my DNA is being a collaborator. And so I love, figuring out ways to work with people. But one of what I would say it's the biggest failure, but it was also a big learning opportunity, is the technology center that I tried to create in the Triad area, where my goal was to collaborate with so many different people, and it just didn't work. And so I said, well, that wasn't a success, and that cost me a lot of money and time and effort and tears. And it's like, so okay, I don't want to get from that. Don't work with people, right? But but it is how I engage with people, how I collaborate takes on a totally different form than it did, at that time.
Yeah, I think you said several things that just make sense in that word. The first one is again the collaboration. So it's success, you have to kind of help yourself out first to get to that next level of planning or executing or what have you.
Right.
But it's also these amazing journeys, like we always hear, Thomas Edison. He 10,000 tries, 10,000 attempts, and then the final one was the one that did it. But that reporter that went to ask him, hey, you failed, 10,000 times. How did you get to this point? And he was like, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways it didn't work.
Right.
And then the last one lit the world. So
right.
The idea is that same. It's the principle of how you relate to success as a journey, meaning that
Right.
if you just look at it like I have to get to this point B, and I'm starting here at point A, and if it doesn't work, then I failed. Well, in reality, you're missing the middle part. You're missing everything that happened in between point A and B. And we're creatures of learning. We really are always adapting, especially now with COVID. We're adapting to a whole new society, a whole new way of doing things. And the idea is the successful people, even now, have been successful because they've been looking at every little step that they took along that path as success to get to that final step. So it's never linear. It's never A to B. It's really all this squiggly bumps and bruises. And there's been lots and lots of little images that are shared in social media that describe it. But every little piece of that journey is successful because, again, going back to Thomas Edison saying, I just found 10,000 ways it didn't work, is exactly what the Nikes of the world and the Reeboks of the world, or the stories you hear about amazing athletes in the Olympics and all these things that we're hoping will come back soon, so that we can enjoy those stories. But that's what's happening on a day-to-day basis even now, when you hear about folks who took it upon themselves to go feed folks that were hungry, or go take care of seniors who were in nursing homes and driving by and showing up big signs, we love you, or happy birthdays now, drive-by birthdays. This is a successful time for the person that embraces the adaptation of what now the new word of success means. So that's really, it's something that can be overwhelming, but at the same time, it's not, because we've all been on successful journeys from the day we took our first steps. And our parents are there cheering us on and excited that we just walked for the first time, to the point where we started to get our first letter grades in elementary school, and we got that A, and we're like, yay, or we got that D, and mom and dad were encouraging us and saying, don't worry, you're going to do better next time. And there it was, the next time that was that B plus, and you're like, psych. It's really always that little things in between the word of the finish line of success that really makes a person successful, not really always the finish line at the end. So everything that you've gone through, those pluses and minuses of life, they are successful. They are really successful. Because the only time that the end of the day, when we all call to our Lord and we go home, even that's successful. So it's like, there's just nonstop success. And that's why I don't get overwhelmed anymore as I've gotten older. Didn't see it when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I see it more and more and more. And in this day and age, we needed to talk about it more at this point.
I think, no, I definitely appreciate that. There was a couple things that came up for me in your sharing. Is you used the word successful a lot within that, and describing that, and how that landed for me is that on this journey there are it's full of successes. There are if you choose to see them as successes, that the one step in front of the other, the one bite of a time with the elephant. I love elephants, so I hated eating elephants, but I get the
It's the other
African
white thing.
proverb.
I don't know.
Right,
I
right.
won't go there.
But the one thing that for me, and I think a lot of other people that I've talked to around success, is that in my head I can get that failure is a part of success. It is it is something that you either label it failure or learning, and sometimes you have to say it is a failure so it can lead to something else, so you can try again. And but sometimes I don't know if it's our conditioning or just the societal type of norms, that anytime something doesn't work, it's a failure, period. It's not leading you anywhere. It's just stop it. This didn't work, move on, and all that other kind of stuff, and just let it go. And as entrepreneurs, and that you have been an entrepreneur for so many years, and on my entrepreneur journey, it's that balance of really looking at the ideation of your some of the ideas that come up as, okay, this didn't work, let's make some changes and keep going, versus throw the baby out with the bathwater and start all over, and that you kind of starting that. How can we embrace failure and embrace success, at the same time, or can we?
Yeah. That's a great question. Probably not enough time to answer it on a show like this, but I'll give you a little story because it always highlights a few things. I adapt a lot to children. Children are just an amazing part of our life that we see. And I'm a big advocate for father figures and children and being part of their lives. So in 2016, I did a TED Talk, and it was sharing the experience I had. But one area that was very interesting is that when I would teach Sunday school class, and there would be these fourth grade kids, and I always knew the ones that needed the extra care because they would be the clingy ones. They would be the ones that would be constantly looking for attention, constantly wanting to get the data boy in almost anything they did, regardless whether it was good or bad or interruptive.
Right.
But my favorite is always my son. My son, he's 10 years old now, but when he was starting out, in his 5, 6, and 7s, he loves to play soccer. And this is when you see, parents go crazy with the camera and the children are running around and you're just having a ball, it's like corralling cats basically.
Right.
So my son, he would get the ball, start running. I'm cheering like a dad who's going nuts in the audience, go, go, go. And he'd kick the ball and he'd miss. Okay. So he'd suddenly be walking back and he'd look towards me. Now, at that very point in time, I had two things that I could have done. I could have looked at him and said, that was horrible, son. You did a horrible job. Or what I actually did was just still cheering like you looked amazing. That was awesome. And this little perky smile with some of his teeth just popping out and all that would pop up. So he learned in every time that he missed or the day that he did get that goal, either one was okay. It was not the aspect of the result, it was the aspect of the whole try. And I think that's what's missing in our young entrepreneurs, our business owners, the folks that are successful they're not sharing enough about those itty bitty steps that they took, that regardless of the result, they tried, as opposed to the person who did nothing. As opposed to the person, and I don't mean to be judgmental here, but in our world, here in the insurance world, we got folks who, again, they're either doing still like nothing has changed because we're essential workers, we're still working, but some have frozen and decided not to do anything. And so there's a whole bunch of people out there who are not getting what they need to get, the services that we provide. So going back to the soccer analogy, again, if my son did not try, he didn't realize that there was a whole bunch of other kids watching him as well and being encouraged just by that try. Just by that attempt that he did, suddenly another kid in his team decided, I'm going to do what you just did, and maybe I'll
Right.
get a goal. So
Right.
the success is really beyond oftentimes what we're narrowly looking at. If I
Right.
just stay like this and say, this is all I'm doing, if I don't fall in this realm, it's a failure, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed very often, because in business or anything else that you do in life, it's failure is part of the success. Failure is
Right.
not optional. It's
Right.
part of the success.
Right.
But when you start to look at it at the grandoso picture and say, wow, I really needed to do that, just like my son saw every attempt to be positive, immediately he knew that he just would try and try again just to get the smile on mom and dad's face, that we were so happy that he did what he did. And we
Right.
got great pictures because of that.
Right.
So it really is a way to open up the word success when you start to embrace it, that every aspect of it is being watched by someone else. And
Right.
every aspect of that, it can encourage our fellow man to say, well, I want to do what you just did, but maybe I have a better way to do it. And that's where
Right.
you get, the other companies or the other ideas starting to accumulate. And as a society as a whole,
Right.
we do better. We do
Right.
better. I mean, there's just amazing stuff going on right now in our world
Right.
amidst all this pandemic that is encouraging me to no end. I mean,
Right.
there's just stuff going on. If you turn the channel off of the news per se and go online to some of the things going on in our successful world,
Right.
you're just amazed at how humans adapt to these type of scenarios, and they're showing what success really looks like.
No, I definitely appreciate the soccer story because there are a couple moments that showed up for me, with having kids that did sports and everything like that. There is that moment when they are looking, that that they're looking at you, and then there's moments that you don't know that they're looking at you. And so the more that you stay in that cheering, that it doesn't matter, that I'm 100% here and present to that, will really goes a number of way. The other thing, one, because of the work that you're in now, that success shows up for me, is that too often success is tied to our money, our financial situation. And when we look at the conversation around retirement or just sustainability, it
Mm-hmm.
is like we look at, oh crap, I haven't been as successful as I thought I need to be, or I need to. How can you have that conversation with people that feel that they haven't been successful, or to be at a point where they can have a successful retirement, or
Yeah.
a journey forward?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back down to, I think this pandemic, what it did for a lot of folks is humble us,
Hmm.
because there were, of course, many, many millions of people who have lost their jobs. There's been millions of people who have lost their savings due to the market crashing. There's many people that have lost a little bit of hope in terms of maybe they're grieving a lost loved one, things like that. I have many, many personal friends and family that I have lost or have had lost, and I'm sharing in their grieving during this time.
Hmm.
So you're wondering, okay, how do you bring somebody to think about success at a time like this? It goes back to where we are. I mean, here we are in the great US of A, and there's probably people on this show that are from other parts of the world, of course. I'm not a world traveler. I've just traveled through the eyes of National Geographic, as I sometimes say.
Right.
So, but I've seen a lot of the world. My wife happens to be from Malaysia, so she has educated me on the world. I mean, we live in an amazing, amazing country that has so many benefits, so many things. So I tell folks, and I remind even myself, if you got a credit card that still has credit in it, you're amazingly blessed. If you have food in the fridge, you're amazingly blessed. If you have a car that has gas in it and still goes and takes you point A, point B, you're blessed. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you're able to read, if you're able to have a smartphone that's connecting to all the data in the world, you're amazingly blessed. The list goes on and on, because when you look at some countries that are very underdeveloped or just oppressed by wicked governments or anything of that nature, and they don't have the freedoms that we have, you
Right.
start to put yourself in the relative position that
Right.
success is not always related to money. If you have friends, if you have a spouse, if you have children, you are immensely blessed without even question. So you can't put a dollar figure to
Right.
that. Now let me go back again. The bills have to be paid. The light bill is still coming. I mean, I get that. You can't quote use this as a positivity conversation to somebody who's really near, getting lost and end up on the streets or
Right.
just not being, have to close out accounts or bankruptcy.
Right.
We're going to see that in this economy now a lot more. Uh, so the point is, the other thing that I like to tell people about success is also being creative. It is not just being positive. And in fact, in my office here, we've had to get creative with people. We can't just be jumping in the office and tell everybody it's a wonderful morning. You can only say that so many times before somebody slaps you in the back of the head. It's not going to happen. So the idea is you have to get creative in this time period. So what is the creativity that can help you to get through this? So
Right.
many folks have been creative and said, maybe I'm not making any money right now, but I still have my health, I still have my legs, I still have my brain. So I'm going to go out there and volunteer and help in my community. I'm just going to get out of the house, do something that's positive in my
Right.
community. I'm going to give blood today. It may save somebody's life, especially in what we're going through right now. So I'm going to go give blood, and I had a little success right there that I was able to do it. There's people going out there and just calling folks to be an encourager to people. Our seniors need that. They're home, some of them alone, unable to get to their family. So we've just called them just to check up on them, just to say, hey, how are you doing? Are you able to get your groceries? Are you able to get your medicines? You're right around the corner from me. I'll stop by right now and bring you some stuff. Do you need
Right.
more toilet paper? The word of the day, right? Toilet
Right.
paper. You can add that one sometime.
Right.
But the idea is that success doesn't always relate to money. Money is up there with oxygen. I'm not saying it's below that,
Right.
but it is a way that sometimes we'll get fixated on that. And even in our world, where sometimes life is just not hitting home runs, you
Right.
still have to say, am I impacting somebody's life? Am I doing something that changes that one person's life? When I, again, going back to, my ministries and things that I did in the past, when I used to speak in front of large audiences, I really said to myself, I'm only speaking to that one person
Right.
that's in the audience that really needs that encouragement that today. And if I did that, then everything else was great.
Right.
The applause or whatever it was at the end of the day, I impacted one life, which is really my gauge to success for that speaking opportunity I had. So it's
Yeah.
it's maybe not the answer some people want to hear, but at the same time, it does work when the
Right.
days are still long and you're trying to get through them in a positive way.
Right. So the opportunity, and I appreciate that too, because this time is an opportunity for us to evaluate or reframe success in our lives and um, how we're showing up, how we're doing it. I mean, a lot of within this conversation, it's the disconnect to connect. It's
Yeah.
like sometimes we have to let go of a way of thinking so we can connect to something new or something
Mhm.
something a possibility. And I think for me, the success of something, it's almost, it has been like a validation. So if if I'm not intentional, if I don't have an idea of what success is going to mean at the end of this or doing this, um, I can be emotionally all over the place with my actions, with my feelings, with my with my intentions that are moving, or attention. As I learned this week too, that if something if my attention and intentions are not aligned, it is
Mhm.
I can't be successful. I can't be full. I'm all over the place. And
Right.
so just being aware of what has my attention kind of helps me really measure the level of success and acceptance of success in my life. And I think really we are designed to connect to each other. Um, and I think because of the I don't know, society conditioning. I mean, I've been using that often. I don't want to feel like I'm like in the conspiracy type of thing. But I really believe that a lot of societal things that we do is for the survival of the society, not not the survival of the people. If that makes sense.
Oh, no, it does. It does,
And
definitely.
the more that we kind of understand the difference and still start taking care of people more and do the things that you were sharing about, looking for your neighbors and donating blood and doing that, it's that we are connected and we are, feel. And I think that's the other thing that, COVID-19 has shown us, is that we're a lot closer and can affect, each other a lot more than we thought.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
that something that could happen around the world can be like in your house.
Yeah,
And that really, how we respond to our connectivity. I don't want everybody to turn into like suspects. I mean, and
yeah,
that's the thing for me with wearing a mask, is that I understand the safety aspect and everything like that, but we have been conditioned that if you wear a mask, you're up to something, right? So it's like we have to change that conditioning so we can now have, mass means that we're keeping each other safe, that
yeah,
it is a consideration that I'm wearing this mask.
yeah,
And so there's a lot of things that, that I feel that, we're kind of getting an opportunity to rethink, to reimagine how a lot of, things that we have been told and that we have done in the past, that we can show up. and and
hmm,
and I think that's what this one word conversation is all about, is to look like, if we're really going to have a conversation or
hmm,
conversations with each other, it has to start with one word, because too often we use all kind, colory words and, interesting words, but they land differently for each other, for different people, and we think
hmm,
we're having one conversation and there's a whole nother conversation happening for the other person. But
yeah,
if we can reduce it down to, what does success mean, what does this mean, what does this mean for you, then I can know who I'm talking to and how, the words that I'm using are landing for people, and
yeah.
then we can stay within the conversation.
Yeah,
So
I think it's really, you hit on so many things, and I think it's like, the one story that was coming up in my mind, it's always one that probably a lot of people have heard. It's about a young boy that was on a beach, and the beach was littered with starfish. They had just gotten washed up,
yes.
and the sun was starting to come up. You probably remember that one. And the boy
Uh-huh.
goes out there and he starts to throw them back in. And some old man was there watching this, and he ran up to the boy. He said, why are you doing this? What's going on? Why are you doing this? It doesn't matter. You got too many. They're all going to die. He picks up one. The little boy just picks up one, throws it in, and he just says, it mattered to that one.
Right.
And you think about that simple story that's been told umpteen amount of times by every motivational speaker out there. You really have to say, what is it that's going on today that we can do for that one person? I mean, we're conditioned, and I use that word lightly because it just brought up, but we're conditioned from the very beginning. Like the minute we're born, we're
Mhm.
being touched by someone.
Right.
And the touching is caressing and all that. And throughout their entire growth, hopefully, in our world, we do have some really sad cases of kids that have grown up abused or just simply abandoned. But in
Right.
the long run, we're touchy feely creatures. So that contact is being changed right now, where we've
Right.
been told we can't touch anybody. We've been told we cannot get too close to you. 6 feet. Imagine that. 6 feet
Right.
is a long distance to be
Right.
away from someone who we're so used to hugging or kissing or shaking hands. All of
Right.
that has been cut off and become a taboo. And even for myself, because I'm Hispanic, I mean, we're kissing each other all the time. It's
Right.
just
Right.
our norm.
Right.
And I haven't been able to do that to the folks that I love and care about, except for my immediate family. So will this stay like this? Possibility, yes.
Right.
We may be more conscious of how we come in contact. Is it a good thing? I'm not sure yet. You know, the word's
Right.
not out yet, but it's definitely going to change the dynamics of how we interact with folks. You know, are we going as business owners shaking hands with people anymore? Is it going to be the norm? So this is where, at this point in time, we need to evaluate not just these type of interactions, but
Right.
going even back to the word success. You know, how are we going to redefine personal etiquette, redefine
Right.
business interactions, redefine technology now that we're
Right.
more video conferencing? Is that going to be more
Right.
prevalent than actual physical meetings? I mean, I have a lot of friends, as you do as well, Bill, that are public speakers and professional
Right.
speakers,
Right.
and their business just stopped. You know,
Right.
imagine their business just stopped completely.
Right.
And now the creative ones have done this. They've gotten in front of people, large
Right.
audiences using video
Right.
conferencing. But the ones that will go forward after that, will there be conferences again? Will there
Right.
be these type of mass gatherings? We
Right.
don't know. And even the one-to-ones, I mean, we're still meeting people in their homes, but you're right, we're wearing this mask. One of the hardest things that I've had since the masks era has been, I usually am a face reader. I usually
Right.
sit with folks and I can
Right.
read their faces. And so now all I'm seeing is a pair of eyeballs,
Right.
and then maybe a wrinkling here and there
Right.
on the forehead. And that's changed the way that I have to pay more close attention to people.
Right.
So even in light of that, now I'm paying attention to the words they use, the speed that they're using them, the body language, the rest of their body, what's going on there, the
Right.
little crinkles on their eyes when they actually smile. And now I can see the little crinkling. Is it a real smile, or are they
Right.
shocked about something they just heard? So there is maybe some positivity to that mask that we
Right.
didn't realize. So when the masks are finally off and everybody's just talking, wow, you know, we're going to see a lot of interesting facial expressions we
Right.
probably didn't notice before. So I think, you know, not to use the word conditioning as much, but just habits. We're
Right.
going to have new habits. But remember, the rule of thumb is always the same. It takes 21 days statistically to get rid of a habit. So the idea is now perhaps in people adjusting to this, to readjusting back to the way things were, it may take 21 days. You never
Right.
know. It may take a month. It may take 2 years. I don't
Right.
know. But I'm excited about where we are, and it sounds weird to say COVID, and I'm excited in the same sentence. But
Right.
I am, because for the folks that are adaptable, for the folks that are creative, for the
Right.
folks that look at success always in the dimmest of rooms, this is huge opportunity. So this is where, again, a lot of people are in fact thriving and doing
Right.
fantastic during this time.
Right.
So we need to ask the questions, you know, what are you doing to do this? So these public gatherings like you're doing now, and social media groups banding together in various categories now,
Right.
they're looking for the answers. So sharing of information has increased immensely now.
Right.
This is where, again, looking at the kettle, or the cup half full, half empty, is
Right.
even more so now than ever before. But people are doing even more than that. They're not just
Right.
looking at one cup, they're looking at 16 cups
Right.
and saying which
Wow.
one's more full, which one's more empty, and
Right.
looking at life that way rather than actually just looking at life with just one eyeball, the way they
Right.
used to do every day.
Right. That's very interesting. One thing that I'm working on right now, because I'm always thinking of how I can kind of really engage my community that I'm creating here with one word conversation. I have a T-shirt idea that came up when my conversation about safety and having the mask, and the T-shirt idea is, it just says this: use your words. And I think too often we have gotten in a place where we don't use our words. We don't talk to people on a level that it makes a difference.
Mm.
There's a lot of an assumptions, and I think the good thing about the mask and this time is that we have to be creative. We have to be um, find other ways of figuring out what this person thinks about this, or how this, how this person is getting this information,
Mhm.
and just go from there. And I think really it goes back to, I have a saying about what is true communication. What is communication, and it is a brave sender and a prepared and willing receiver. So a brave sender and a prepared and willing receiver. And I think too often the people are say things, and they're not brave. And what I mean by brave is they're saying what they're saying. This is my understanding of what's true for me right now. I'm speaking my own words and not somebody else. And
Right.
and the preparedness is basically asking people to listen, or asking people to be present, to what's going on. And I believe after someone is prepared, they have to be willing to hear what you have to say. And
Yeah.
too often on social media and other places, we haven't been willing, or we don't, to really to hear. And so we haven't been having communication. And so now we need to have communication, because it's a
Mhm.
life or death thing. It is, there is a lot of things that people need information on so they can make different choices around safety,
Mhm.
and just let people that they love and care about know how they're doing.
Mhm.
Because, like you were saying, we can't have, what I call conversational hugs. Sometimes you can hug somebody, with no words, and you know exactly what's going on or not going on. You can,
Correct.
you can, and for many of that, we don't have that form, because sometimes people don't have the words, or don't know, or want to have the perfect words or anything like that. So they don't use anything. And so during this time, there is this adaptability that we need to have. However, the more that we use our words, and just be willing to explain our words and to share what these words, why I use these words, what these words
Mhm.
mean to us, then we can have the level of communication
Yeah.
and connection that I believe that we want. Now, we could have this conversation forever, as you said. There's hours, but I recognize that we just can't do that. Even
Yeah.
so. Um, is there any like last words, or anything that you want to share, um, for people to kind of connect with you?
Well, I mean, right now, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been well
Okay.
overdue,
I
that's for
know
sure.
it
We haven't
has.
had a chance to talk, so that's great. We go back already a long time. I think for the public, first and foremost, don't lose hope in this time period that we're in. I come from a biblical worldview, so my faith means a lot to me and what I believe in, and so I'm not in any fear of what's going on, but I am empathetic to many, many folks who've gone through horrific things, as well as nightmares, as well as the pandemic itself and what it's doing to our country. But in all these aspects, if you look at it from a historicity, everything has come out okay at the end. People our bodies are made to withstand quite a bit. Our emotions are made to withstand. So if you know somebody that is not doing too well, reach out to them. Be proactive in this time period. Reach out to some people that you know that need that virtual hug, or they just really, need someone to cheer them up. A card, a drive-by, a phone call, an email, whatever it is that you do to communicate with folks. Go ahead and be a little more excited about doing a little more, getting out to those folks, because they do need you. They need you right now, and you can help them. And if you're the person that needs that help, and I'm reaching out to you specifically, I'm telling you that have hope. This will pass, and things will be in a new way better for everyone. And so just hang tight to that person who loves you, or just reach out to me. You saw my info there, and I'll be more than happy to pray with you, to reach out to you, to love on you in the distance. But we're going to get through this. I'm very, very excited about the world to come.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, and you have I know you to be a praying man, and you can, you put that out there, and that is the truth. So, Angel, thank you very much. This has really been great, and absolutely, wait too long. Do you have time to stay in the green room for a minute as I leave the show?
I do have a little bit of time. Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so
But thank you so much, and thank you everyone who's listening to this, and whether today or obviously the replays or anything after that. This has been great. I do appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Well, that was great. So, did you get another understanding of success, or maybe you already had some of those insights for yourself? But success is, a journey, and what I believe, and what I've taken from this conversation here, is that my life is full of successes. And too often, I don't label them as successes, because the successes in my life sometimes show up as failures. And so the more that I can label them as learning, and the successes that leads into other successes in my life, then that is definitely a full life. I would love to hear how this is showing up in the comments for you, or just reaching out. I announced yesterday that starting next week, I will have a recap show on Thursdays, where it will be a live YouTube show where I will bring the viewers on, and that's gonna be fun. We're gonna see if that's gonna be a success or if that's gonna be a lesson. But I'm really excited to be able to have the conversations that are coming up for you, and recap some of the conversations that we're having with some of my guests. I'm very, very excited about my life, and how the world is showing up for me, and I hope that you can say that for you to say the same. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope to see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for One Word Conversation.